Mike, what's up, man?
What's up, Big Rob? What it do, man?
No, Mike, pretty good, man. Y'all now tuned in to episode two. Numbers lie, men lie, women lie, and numbers do too. With your hostess, Ra. And then, my mother first mistake is here in the flesh, Mike. You dig?
You at it again today, man? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come on, man. I gotta let the people know, man. They gotta know every time we record, they gotta know who you are, man.
yeah.
I gotta properly introduce you, man. You dig?
Yeah. Just say big bro. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Big bro.
I hear you. But I definitely want to get on a few topics today, man. I don't know if you saw we in the Stanley Cup along with the NBA Finals. I know it was something pretty interesting, or at least came across my screen with the Stanley Cup. Did you see the brawl that took place? It was like about five. You had about five different fights going on at the same time. With the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah, with what was it? I don't want to mess up the team names.
Florida, Florida and the Oilers.
Yeah, Florida and the Oilers. Yeah. I thought we would probably have some interesting take on that. And just going into sports and that's like really when I think about it, that's what besides boxing, that's the only sport you're allowed to fight in, right?
Yeah, to my knowledge,
Besides a
I mean
combat sport,
MLB.
right? That's crazy.
Yeah, MLB you can rush the mount to a degree, but other than that, yeah, uh, hockey is probably the only sport really that is just super acceptable. So I find it interesting to say the least. I'm always intrigued to watch hockey because hockey is similar to basketball. I told you before I had to do a paper in college in regards to hockey, and I started to realize that each sport had a lot of the same similarities, and I started to actually love the game of hockey. So I'm always intrigued how they allowed hockey to continue to have that masculine energy. But when it comes to basketball and football, we kind of going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, they try to make the game softer and softer. I mean, especially both sports, basketball mainly, and then of course for football as well. Um, do you think that has a race component to it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I guess we're going to peel the layers back at this point. We're going to get into it, right? You
Yeah, yeah,
got
yeah, absolutely.
hockey. Yeah, you got hockey, which is a predominantly Caucasian sport that, again, allowed a men to be aggressive and show their masculinity. And somehow, when it comes to basketball and football, which is dominated by us, Black Americans, we're taking away all the aggression and all the physicality when it comes to the sport. Now, I understand some of the physicality from basketball and football pertaining to the head trauma and things of that nature. And then basketball, they wanted a free flowing game, but we took it too far. I mean, in basketball, you can't even dunk on somebody right now and show some aggression. But in hockey, you can literally punch a dude in his face till he loses teeth, and that's a highlight on ESPN. So, so again, people have to explain that difference because we love sports because of the even playing field that sports entail, right? Normally, is no race component in sports. It's just made a best man or woman win, and then you are under the same rules. But somehow, when it comes to NHL, they're able to fight, which I said the sport is similar to basketball. If they have a reason to fight, basketball, we got reasons to fight as well. But somehow, one is considered a highlight when it happens, and then the other is considered you let your race down. You a thug. You are the lower end of society because you decided while you was competing that it was time to put hands on somebody. So
Yeah.
I don't understand the difference. One is on ice, one is on a basketball court or on the field, but all sports have a reason to actually fight. So why is hockey the only one that's allowed to show that type of aggression?
Yeah, and to piggyback off what you're saying, football is more physical than both sports, right? It's like you literally trying to take a dude head off. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't tell me after some of those hits you ain't getting up ready to fight. I've seen dudes take some brutal hits. And again, if they react in that type of manner, the media then goes and paint them as thugs and everything, but everything else. And here you are as hockey, you know what I'm saying? And a dude gonna fight. And like you said, it's a highlight reel. It's a highlight reel. They applauding it, and it shows you got some toughness. It shows you got some grit. It shows you not gonna let nobody, another team, bully y'all or walk over y'all, or you get what I'm saying. So, and all these sports have what we called, or at least once before they started softening some of these sports up, have what we call enforcers. Basketball
Mm-hmm.
had enforcers. Football had your enforcers, right? It had certain rules, similar rules. Don't come down the middle. We understood that, right? With basketball, you come down the middle, you're going to get some leather laid on you. Same thing with football. Wide receiver go down that middle, he knew what was liable to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it all had those physical components and regulations to it. I definitely find it intriguing that sport that's dominated Caucasian, they allowed to get physical to that extent. They're allowed to put hands on one another, and nobody look at it as a negative. Nobody is painting them as a thug the next morning. Nobody is painting them as a criminal. Nobody is painting them in none of those lights. You know, it just shows great that shit. They shake hands after. You know what I'm saying? They show sportsmanship after they fight. You know, so I find that intriguing how that's the only sport that is allowed in. It says a lot about our country. It definitely
Yeah,
says a lot about our country, you know.
I
And
agree.
I'm curious if more blacks participated in hockey, would that rule stand, right? If
That's that,
if it started
that's
to
a good
grow.
question. That's a good question. I mean, look where they have taken basketball. And again, we know the rule changes was pertaining to the average fan to enjoy the sport and eliminate some of the physicality and allow the scoring to increase, which they've done that. So if you want to say that was the reason, then okay, kudos. They did a good job to get to that point. I said, but in regards to the rule changes of where it's at now, they are literally destroying the game. I said, you have big men holding the basketball, somebody guarding them with their face, and you got to worry about moving your arms, saying "excuse me" to his face to try to make a move. I mean, this is this
Yeah.
is this is crazy. This has never been basketball. You get what I'm saying? Like I played basketball. When a big man got the ball, they was taught to show those elbows. They was taught to do certain things which separated them from guards and forwards and things of that nature. That, yo, you in my turf, if you come in there trying to get aggressive, I'm going to show some physicality and make you think twice. But nowadays, they got to back off. If they make a mistake and touch a dude with their elbow or their arm, it's a flagrant foul and all of these different things. I said the game has gotten soft to the level of basically no return. So just to piggyback off what you were saying with hockey, just to make the comparison, we got hockey, the brawl with Florida and the Oilers, literally punching each other in the face. Everybody find a guy, punch him in the face. I mean, this is beautiful. I'm loving it. You get what I'm saying? I'm loving it. Then you know I'm an aggressive dude, so I'm loving this because this is what competition is all about. Sometimes you got to put hands on somebody. It is what it is. In the moment, this doesn't mean you're a bad person in society or anything like that. Sometimes you are competing to a point that somebody goes beyond the threshold and you got to check it. And a lot of times that checking is with physicality. So again, you got 5-on-5 punching each other in the face and the mouth, whatever the case may be. And then we turn to ESPN for the NBA game, and dudes that made this a fashion show. We got dudes walking with purses before the game, and that's what they highlight. Like, you laugh. Yo, man, you laughing, but this is our reality now.
No, it's a fact. But look,
you get what I'm saying?
It's funny you brought that up, and this is what I was talking about with the narrative, right? Because here in the NHL, you got these dudes able to show masculinity. You got them able to beat on each other and punch each other in the face. Nobody call them a thug. Meanwhile, in the NBA, remember the reason why they changed the damn dress code. You know what I'm saying? It was like trying to paint this narrative of this is like a thug urban dress code. You know what I'm saying? Don't wear do-rags no more. Don't wear this. And then I understand they try to do it under the idea of professionalism, right? This is not how you would wear. This was not what you would wear to work, right? But I'm just going on for the simple point of one thing is clothing. Just over a dude clothing, you paint a narrative of a thug, right? And then we go to hockey, and dudes is literally punching each other in the face, and then getting applauded and clapping after the fight. You know what I'm saying? So it just shows the how we look at things in the stereotypical way. You know, in a stereotypical way. I mean, we could give an example of, remember with Ron Artest, the fight that broke out. The fight that broke out there. We could just take a look at that, how they was painted in the news the next day. Right? Not saying you should be going fighting fans, but it just shows how it is acceptable in one society, and then it's not even close to acceptable in another society. As soon as, you know, I think black men show anything of aggression, anything of that nature, then we always got to tie this stereotype thing to them as being a thug, a gangster, this, that, all this. I mean, just to give you make another point of that, John Morant. All this dude did was have a gun. Not shoot nobody. You know what I'm saying? He didn't kill nobody. You know what I'm saying? All he did was have a gun. We look at white culture, they go hunting, they do all types of stuff with guns. You know what I'm saying? But the moment here go a black man showing a gun, and he's crucified for just having a gun, like it's a crime to have a gun.
Yeah, which is,
he had a licensed gun at that. You know what I'm saying? From my understanding. So it just shows the how we look at things in society, especially in American culture. How on one end of the fence, anything that is associated with aggression and masculinity is acceptable. On the other end of the fence, anything that's associated with aggression and masculinity, we're gonna pour down on it and say it is the worst thing that we ever seen. Or this guy, you know, I mean, to the point he got suspended. He got suspended for having a gun. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, you know, I agree with you 100%. Me being a gun owner myself, I think it's important that we share that message coming, you know, or speaking to inner city kids and youth. Guns aren't criminals. A gun is just a gun. You get what I'm saying? How you choose to use the gun will determine, you know, how good a gun is or how bad a gun is. And I think that has been removed out of society. The minute a black man has a gun, it's automatically viewed in a form of criminality. And me, if I was the agent of daggone Morant, I would have doubled down. I would have had him doing gun commercials, showing how you could, look, I'd have him doing gun commercials, showing how you can be responsible being a gun owner. Look, the people that's actually creating crimes are not walking around with licensed guns. We have to remove this out of our mindset. So for somebody to go do the paperwork and actually license a gun, they're not looking to harm somebody in their community. They're looking to protect themselves, and that's their Second Amendment right to bear arms in the United States and protect themselves by any means necessary. So, not saying that John Morant was carrying it to protect himself or not, but the way they made it criminal just by him actually having a gun and not doing nothing illegal with it, to me, that says a lot, pertaining to race in this country.
Yeah, 100. It's definitely something else I wanted to kind of touch on as we kind of speaking on stereotypes and slightly injustice going on. For lack of better words, I don't even want to call it injustice, but for lack of better words. Um, I don't know how you feel about this, but I kind of wanted to touch on the difference in pay between male athletes and women athletes, right? I thought that would be something. I thought that was a pretty interesting topic. I definitely want to know how you felt on that. What was your take on this?
Well, I'm Big Bro, so you kind of know my take, when it comes to this unequal pay. And a lot of people ain't going to want to hear it because they pennies are in a bunch. So first, let me say this. I respect women in sports. I think they're extremely talented. But do I think they should be getting paid like men? Yes, when they generate the same money as men. WNBA, let's just speak on the WNBA, for example, versus the NBA. The WNBA, looking at the NBA salaries and how many years people built that up for the men to make what they making, to me is crazy. Your business does not have a profit. Your business would have been out of business if the NBA didn't come in and save y'all guys. So how do you come back now and show your gratitude? You start complaining and crying about equal pay. Let me make this clear, because I've heard this conversation a few times and people like to dance around it because, in basketball and in sports is a family. So you try not to, get other people upset when you're speaking, and sometimes you kind of dance around issues. If it was no gender pertaining to sports, no woman, no woman, and I'm talking WNBA, and we could talk other sports as well, no woman would make the men league. None. Zero. The talent pertaining to the difference, and it's not skill. This is where people get it twisted. Women are extremely skilled. If anything, women are more fundamental than men when it comes to basketball. If anything, women played a more purist style of basketball than men. But now you have to deal with the biology of it, the height, the athleticism, the physicality, the strength, the speed, the quickness. Women cannot compete. No woman in the WNBA, you could take the best one, would ever make the NBA if we remove gender. Period. So should they be paid like men? Yes. When they generate the same amount of money as men, and they're not even in the same stratosphere. Anytime we talking about this unequal pay, somehow everybody always look at the top of the charts when it comes to unequal pay. They want to look at the NBA. It's minor league basketball all around the world. That's not
That's
making
what I was
what the
going to touch on.
NBA is making. They're not making what they make.
And look, and they don't have no other lead to keep them afloat either. They don't have no other lead to keep them afloat, right? So they go out of business. That's it. The NBA owners is not coming to save them from going out of business, right?
Mm-hmm.
The NBA owners is not putting no money in, chipping in to keep them afloat. right? If you go to any other league besides what the G League, I guess, which is like an off branch because the NBA have an investment in that to develop talent there. But anything outside of the G League, if that league goes out of business, it's out of business. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So for the WNBA to go unprofitable for all these years, and you have the NBA willing to kind of keep them going and keep them running, those owners to keep them running, because whether it's a tax break or whatever for them, um, that's a blessing right there. So to then be having a conversation about unequal pay is ridiculous. We all know in the entertainment business, period, what you generate allows what you make. That's
Mm-hmm.
the equality in that. Period. If you ain't generating enough, then you ain't gonna make the same amount, right? Same thing with superstars. That's like a guy on the bench arguing with LeBron, talking about he should get equal pay. You ain't gonna put
Yeah.
the ass on the seats like LeBron do, my man. You get what I'm saying? It's just not. It's not the same. So I think it is equal because it's based off of what you generate, what you produce. You know,
Yeah.
so it looks like the WNBA is growing. That do lead to another thing I want to bring up, and I didn't even know we was going to hit on this topic. Um, I see a lot with the Caitlin Clark situation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and
Um,
I'll touch
yeah,
on that. But I wanted to say this before we,
okay,
before we pivot, pertaining to the WNBA. Like I said, the WNBA and the NBA. You said it. The NBA has subsidized them for I don't know how long, pertaining to the revenue that they wasn't generating. Somehow it seems like the women want to try to compete with the men, which is bad. Because I've heard people say, yo, lower the rim or do certain things that'll probably make their game a little bit more exciting. Because, like I said, their game is the purest form of basketball. I said, but when it comes to the excitement aspect, one game is played below the rim and another game is played above the rim. These are almost two different sports when you start comparing them and how they're actually played. And that's why they're more fundamental because they playing under the rim. When you got a guy that can, aka Vince Carter, jump over a dude that's trying to take a charge, it's hard to tell that dude to take 1-2 steps and lay it with his left hand on the left hand side when he about to jump over a dude. You get what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Before you go
So
any further, Mike, WNBA, if you still inside there, we suing. Just to let y'all know, if I see
what
y'all
you say?
lower the rim, the WNBA, if y'all still inside there, we suing. You know what I'm saying? So I want to throw that out there. If I find out the rim is 8 feet or 8.5 that the woman
I
playing on, there's
look.
no
I think
reason
they
I
should
cut. You know what I'm
look.
saying? But go ahead.
Look, Rod. I've always thought they should lower the hoop, and there's no disrespect to them. Like we
100.
different from a biological standpoint. We different from our height, from our jumping ability, from our hand size. I mean, they already don't play with the same size basketball. So what's the problem? Stop looking at the men's game and tell it a game to your biology. And your game will be just as exciting
Exciting.
as the NBA. If I
Exactly.
see a Caitlin Clark cross somebody twice and go dunk on somebody, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
yo.
give where the front row
Look,
seats at, right?
look,
Real talk.
yeah. I may go buy season tickets. If I see
Yeah.
a double cross and a dunk on, oh my, look, I again, most dudes would be excited pertaining to that because when it comes to sports, what people don't understand is the average fan want to see something they can't do themselves. You get what I'm saying? They
True.
want to see something they can't do themselves.
True.
So yeah, we have the the fans that want to see certain things and then try those things because they could do it, the AKA Stephen Curry's. But for the most part, when they looking at an athlete that they looking up to, they looking up to them because this person can do things that they can't even imagine.
Yeah. But that's what I think Caitlin have is helping the league grow in a way. because where she's shooting the rock from and that consistency. Of course, she got more to
Mhm.
her game, but that's the excitement of her game. Um, in this era, more than any era, shooting has been what's the word for it? Shooting has played more of a big part in excitement to the game. And that's for
Mhm.
WNBA and NBA, right? With Stephen Curry, him shooting from how far he's shooting from, and things of that nature. With nobody even thought, first of all, in the NBA, that wasn't even considered a good shot. Some of these shots he's taking, you know what I'm saying? So now that it's more open to shoot from damn near half court, shoot from the logo, and all these different things, she's doing a big part in I think helping grow the WNBA. But I agree with you 100%. If they want to take that next step, I think they should lower the rim. And like you said, the basketball is already smaller, which a lot of people don't know. You're already playing with a smaller basketball. Why are you doing that?
Mhm.
Well, you're doing that for the reasons that we mentioned, the biological difference, right?
Yeah.
So Caitlin is not shooting the NBA basketball from that range. She's shooting the WNBA basketball from that range, which is a difference. If anybody felt the difference, you know the difference is a lot lighter. And then playing with a women's basketball than a men's basketball. But I just kind of want to touch on that because I thought I've been seeing a lot with um people trying to make it a race thing with the Caitlin Clark and things of that nature. And I think what she's doing for the sport is definitely dope. At the end of the day, when it comes to sports, period, it's either you could play or you can't.
Mhm.
Okay, black, white, orange, red, green, yellow. You could ethnicity is either you could ball or you can't. Period. You know what I'm saying? And she has shown that she's definitely elite. And I think the WNBA have done a horrible job of embracing her. I think it's
I
almost
agree.
like earn your credibility. There've been women before you that have been building this league. Earn your respect. You get what I'm saying, and things of that nature. And yes, it should definitely be some of that. You should always pay homage in a way to the ones before you. But it's almost like to shun her in a way. You know what I'm saying? And I think they have done a at the end of the day, nobody came with all the great WNBA players before her. Nobody brought the excitement to the game that she has. Period. And
I
that's with
agree.
Lisa Leslie, dunking. That was like a big thing. Lisa Leslie actually able to dunk and or whatever the case might be. And nobody brought the excitement that Caitlin Clark has brought to the game. So I definitely think they should embrace her a lot more than what they're currently doing right at this moment.
Yeah, she has a unique skill set, and I agree with you when it comes to this. Has the WNBA embraced her? The organization has, but not the players. It seems like you said, the players is on some. You gonna work for it. I'm gonna show you what the WNBA is about. As- Instead of embracing her, you can compete as hard as you want. But pertaining to some of the flagrant things that they doing out there, to me is out of bounds. This is not a race thing when it comes to Caitlin Clark because she can actually hoop. And anybody who say otherwise, you get what I'm saying? They just a hater. Because when you look at her and you look at the excitement she brings to the game, how she handles the basketball, how she passed the basketball, how she shoots from deep, all of these different things is a pretty unique package when it comes to a player in the WNBA. There's not too many players you can even look at when it comes to the WNBA and say, you know what? That was the Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. No, none of them was. None
Yeah.
of them was. She came with her own unique skills. And that's what I was talking about in regards to why people love sports. Normally, sports is just an even playing field. It don't got nothing to do with race. It don't got nothing to do with all these extra things that's attached to our society. Can you hoop? And if you say yes, now we in a show me state. Show me that you can hoop. And the fans is watching, and the other team is trying to stop you from doing that. Because to me, that's a true sport. I don't view golf, bowling, I don't view dart throwing, I don't view none of these things as sports. Those are skills. Are they hard skills? Yes. These are hard skills to catch on, but they not a sport. A sport, you need somebody in front of you trying to stop you from you achieving what you're trying to achieve. And if no one's trying to stop you, that's not considered a sport. So I agree with you 100% when it comes to Caitlin Clark. They should be embracing her if they knew the economic side. She's only going to grow the game. She's only going to grow the game. And if she grow the game, she going to grow your pocket as well as her.
Everybody else pocket. Everybody benefit. Yeah, everybody benefit.
And you know what this make me think of? And then, we could kind of pivot. This made me think of Tiger when he came to golf. It was that same kind of undertone race aspect to it. And some people didn't want to embrace it. But based on his ability and the hoopla that came with it, once he won that first major, it was nothing anybody could do. It was already out the bag. It just kind of blew up. And as it blew up, the money that they was paying for these tournaments blew up as well. She can beat a Tiger Woods if they allow her to do so. Instead of hating and seeing where this train is going, and I'm not saying don't compete. I'm saying stop doing all the extra. We hoopers, we know the extra. And they doing a lot of extra pertaining to playing against her. It seemed like you trying to hurt her instead of compete against her. And I don't like that.
I agree. And you ain't doing nothing to help. You could, like I said, on one end you're complaining about equal pay, and then when you have somebody come in that can help grow the sport or grow the WNBA, you not receiving that with open arms in a way. Like you said, that don't mean not compete, but it's almost seemed like it's some type of hating going on or extra going on, which is it doesn't make no sense to me. You want to make more bread? Well, get more eyes on the sport. Get more eyes watching what you want to do. Get more asses in the seat. And every time I turn to an Indiana game, I forget what they call Fever or whatever. Every time that's on TV, that damn arena look packed. It look packed,
Yeah.
So I agree one bit, but also talking about pay, the news came out with colleges playing athletes directly, right? So I have a huge take. Before I even let you go in on this, let me say this. Finally, I will say that finally, been long overdue. It's cool that they started the NIL. That's one thing, and now I guess you got both, right? Now you should have the NIL, and then you got guys able to collect a bag right from the university, right? These universities have been making billions of dollars off the sweat of athletes, and all they offer was a scholarship. So all they offer was a scholarship, right? After they done made billions and billions and billions of dollars, market them, use their likeness, right? I don't know how you just take somebody's likeness off for a scholarship is ridiculous, right? And then they didn't allow these athletes to make money in no type of way. Like they basically denied them from making money. So to me, it was just another form of damn near slavery. When you do that, when you go and say I'm gonna make billions, and not only am I gonna make money off your name, but now I'm gonna deny you from making $1. These dudes couldn't get a job. They couldn't. I mean, anything. If they took money from anywhere, it would damage their scholarship, right? We saw what they did to Reggie Bush with his Heisman and all that stuff. So I'll start by saying, finally, that's a beautiful thing. Now I'm gonna tell you where I have a big problem with the rule that they put in. Right. It seemed like, and I'm still kind of reading into it, but it looks like they maxed out. Like they basically gave them a salary cap. Right. I don't know if it was like 20 million or something. My numbers could be a little off, but it looked like they basically gave the schools a salary cap on a budget, in other words, of how much they could use. Right. My problem with that budget is you basically said with this budget, that guys have to go to every sport. Right. So that budget is split up between all the sports on your university. As we were speaking before, every sport, like we were speaking again with, men and female, right? Every sport does not generate the same dollars,
Mhm.
right? So if every sport is not generating the same dollars, and then you're trying to pay a volleyball team versus the football team, how's that money now dividend out? Right? How's that dividend out? And on top of that, because they didn't put no structure, so I guess you left it up to the universities. So it's only two ways it's gonna go. I do think they should have put a small portion, whatever that say it was 20 million. If you're gonna say we're gonna take, I don't know, 1% or 2% of that, 20 million, right? And we're gonna dish that out to the sports that don't really generate the type of money that our main sports do. I'm fine with that,
Mhm.
right? It's almost like how we talked about the NBA was subsidizing the WNBA, right? To make sure that they making something. But
Mhm.
it leaves this notion of entitlement to other athletes that they should be getting paid as much as the athletes that generate money. When you don't balance that out, you just say, here goes 20 million, now break that up, right? And then also what happened, it leaves teams, at least certain schools, to say, well, we generating all the money, football and basketball, we taking the whole pie.
Mhm.
We could care less what y'all doing, y'all don't generate nothing. Right? So now you got to have a kind enough heart to say, hopefully the university or the AD or whatever to say, yo, we're going to make sure. So I think it leaves an imbalance there when you put that salary cap and say, hey, by the way, break that money up between all these schools. And I mean, between all these sports. And we know every sport ain't even. Every sport is not generating the same amount of money. Every sport don't need the same amount of money. So I am glad that they made that move, but I think it's still more to do because I think what they did was kind of stupid. It didn't make any sense.
I mean, I agree with a lot of things you said. Again, we speaking to a former collegiate athlete that played Division I basketball and understand what that entails, not just on the court, but behind the scenes and what you're responsible for. Like this has always been a full-time job. But when I went to college in 2000, but 25 years ago, oh my goodness, saying that out loud is insane. Right? 25 years ago, this conversation, no one wanted to hear it. No one wanted to hear it. They felt like in 2000, if you was a Division I athlete playing one of these major sports, basketball or football, that you was already getting more than you should be getting. Like, oh, you should be grateful for a scholarship. And a lot of these guys are getting these scholarships, and again, not graduating college. A lot of these guys are getting this scholarship, and next thing you know, they don't got the scholarship next year. No different than professional sports because they was recruited over or the coach left and a new coach came in and one of his own players. All of these things wasn't discussed prior to. This was all privy information within the confines of basketball that people that understood. But outside of that, people didn't understand these things. So it's funny to look 25 years later and no one's complaining about the colleges about the pay student athletes because I always thought student athlete was a joke. You were athlete student. No one's missing a game to do a paper. Like no one's saying, "Oh, I play on ESPN tomorrow, but I got a paper," and then they juggling paper, ESPN game, paper, ESPN game, paper. Oh no, of course not. That paper just ain't gonna get touched. So again, it was overdue because of what we was talking about, even when we talked about the WNBA and the NBA. a sport is generating a certain amount of money. The people that's putting the blood and sweat and tears on the court is not receiving anything. How fair is that? Because scholarship pertaining to college, that don't guarantee a degree. You just got a scholarship. And before you start picking your classes, we're going to tell you all your responsibilities that you have pertaining to your sport. When you can't pick classes because you got to make sure that you at a study hall, or you got to make sure you at some other program pertaining to like a breakfast program, or you got to be working out at the gym lifting weights, or you got to be practicing with your team. It was all of these other things that trumped school, and trying to juggle the two. Everyone understood that the athletics came before the student. So again, I'm happy for these young guys. Anytime we see young guys like ourselves that's able to start generating some money legally off of their talents and abilities because the market allows it, I'm all for it. Now, these guys are going to have to get smart with their finances. And I do agree with you when it comes to the other sports. It's only two main sports that generate income: basketball and football. So to all of a sudden say you got a pot of money and now you got to spread this around other sports, this is, to me, an example of everybody get a trophy. The participation era. Yo, if your sport don't generate X, Y, and Z and it ain't making us money, how can we pay you? So now you're going to take this income from basketball and football and start spreading it to everybody as if they generating these funds. These student athletes, and I'll put quotations in them in the air, is already getting that same scholarship. They always got that same scholarship. When I was talking from 2000 or way before when I attended college, when people thought basketball and football was getting all the perks, well, tennis, fencing, lacrosse, hockey, but whatever, depending on the university that you was at, was getting that same scholarship. So, so to me, I agree with you when it comes to the sharing of revenue. You have to be strategic with that. And if your sport isn't generating funds, yeah, you can find a way to give them something, but it shouldn't be no comparison.
Yeah.
Like, this is the real flow.
Yeah. Period. I agree 100%. I agree 100% with that. I have no comeback at all to say to that. You know what else I came across? I don't know if you see the MJ possibly coming back to what's that, NBC Sports or something like that, to give his take and things of that nature. I thought that would be pretty dope. What was your take on
that? I think it'll be amazing for people to see. Not just everybody got to see the talent of MJ, but now you get a chance to get into the mind, the competitiveness, how they view the game. I thought that was one thing, God bless the dead, that people started to see from Kobe when he retired and started going down that path, that the greats, they think different. They built different. And when you start to understand their mindset, you start to truly understand why they was able to achieve the things they have achieved, because they don't think like an average person. So I think that'll be amazing. I'm not sure how politically correct Jordan is going to be. I hope he's not. I hope he's raw. I hope
get the authentic MJ. Yeah,
and give them because the era that we in, right, people are too sensitive. They're too sensitive. Like
Yeah,
they
but
worrying about how.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
no, I was.
they worried about how they say certain things that may hurt people's feelings instead
Right.
of just being authentic and being honest with your take. And truthfully, even when it comes to podcasts, I think it's extremely hard for a lot of these players to be frank with a podcast because basketball and sports is a brotherhood. And you don't want to say something that rubs somebody you know and probably played with the wrong way. A lot of times when guys do that, they're not doing it from being honest. Like they really got a problem with this person, you know? So
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
respect
yeah.
I respect everybody that made it to those levels. But we're gonna give a real take on it. I'm gonna give my real take on it, and I could care less how people think about
Yeah, if you're gonna get a authentic MJ, um, I think it'd be dope. I think it'd be dope, just like the things you were speaking on. You know what I'm saying? To get more inside the mind, and I guess he gave you a little of that with the little Netflix documentary, and things of that nature. Um, but that do lead me because you got LeBron with his podcast as well. Um, and I don't know if because we still. Let me ask you this: do you think dudes is LeBron is not as appreciated right now, um, due to him still playing?
it. No,
Okay.
I believe LeBron has gotten his flowers and some. And some of that is due to the propaganda, the media. Some of that is due to him being a face of the league, and the league want to push him to increase the brand of the NBA. And then you have social media, which he's been able to really control his narrative, not just on social media, but in mainstream media. So every take is about LeBron. So I believe he's gotten his flowers. Everybody knows LeBron is an amazing talent. But when you critique him to a degree, it seems like people are saying you hate LeBron or you got a problem
So
with it. No, you critique everyone.
so let's
But go
get
ahead.
into it. Yeah, I was gonna say let's get into it since we there. Goats, right?
Oh, you
Um,
going
yeah,
there?
we might as well. We already kind of lead into that point. Um, let's get into GOAT and where do you have? I don't want to even start with LeBron because people take that the wrong way, right? First of all, do you have MJ as the GOAT? And if he is, do you think, how can I put this? Do you think MJ is, I'm trying to find the best way to put it, right? I was gonna say, do you think MJ is, if you're in a different era, people don't look at MJ as the same as being a GOAT? Like, do you think era changes the how you view a GOAT? You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, somebody's growing up in the LeBron era. Do it make sense for them to have a LeBron over Jordan? Or somebody growing up in, I don't know, Magic era or Bill Russell era? You know what I'm saying? Like, does GOAT changes from era to era? Or is it truly a number one GOAT? Or is this just our imagination and you really can't put no order or structure to who's the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent question. To the average fan, I think goats may change from era to era. From people that understand the game and can kind of dig deeper in it and peel the layers back of basketball, I don't believe that's the case. I know a lot of people don't like the comparisons or even the GOAT conversation, but to me, it need to be had. And of course, it's subjective, but you need to back up why you believe somebody is the GOAT. And my GOAT, hands down, is MJ. MJ is the GOAT for me. Now, that
Do
may
you have
tell
LeBron
my
number
age.
2?
Oh, no, LeBron ain't number 2 either, but we could get into that. We could
Yeah,
get into that
let's go
another
there.
time.
So,
I,
if you had
I
to put
guess,
your number 2, who would you put? Like, if you had to do a Mount Rushmore, where would you go with it?
yeah, see, I would need some time to think about it. I know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is up there for me. I know Kobe is up there for me. These are people that I'm going to put before LeBron because some of their traits and attributes, when I watch the game, it resonates with me a lot more than watching LeBron. I think this era, they skipped a lot of steps with this stacking the teams. And I get what LeBron was trying to do from a power or leverage standpoint. He wanted to take the power from the owners and put it in the players' hands, which was beautiful. And you give him all the kudos to be able to do that. But the problem with it was the players all of a sudden started wanting to create AAU teams. They wanted to start playing with each other. I mean, even down to your own era. Like, oh, we the same draft class. LeBron and Wade was the same draft class. And Bosh. How they all three came together is,
and
to me, I've never seen that. But let me say that.
Go ahead.
When you do that, I think the natural process it takes a top player to win a championship. It's not just, again, numbers lie, right? Plug, numbers lie. It's not just scoring a certain amount of points or getting a certain amount of assists. It's really looking at what your team needs and you being able to plug those holes to a degree. And sometimes that's getting out of your comfort zone. I don't believe this era had to get out of their comfort zone to win championships. I'm talking about LeBron. I'm talking about Kevin Durant. Neither one of them had to get out of their comfort zone to win championships because they just went and got all of this talent, which some of those pieces went and plugged the holes, which normally the superstar would have to figure out how to plug these leaking holes to make sure that the ship doesn't sink. So MJ to me is the GOAT. Some people have an issue with that because they looking at skill set. And I'll say this, and it may be controversial. When you look at MJ's skill set, as amazing as it is, if you break it down, like each nuance skill, some of these skills, he won't be the best player. Like MJ won't be the best three-point shooter. He won't be the best ball handler when it comes to some of these other players. But the way he utilized those skills to dominate the game, and I got to emphasize that, dominate the game, was like no other. So these guys got skill sets, but they don't really use it to dominate the game. They play in the game and they getting stats, but they not dominating in my eyes. So
no, I agree with you 100%. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when it comes to GOAT, like I said, MJ, and I'll let you chime in, MJ is my GOAT.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. One thing, like I heard Gilbert Arenas say some foolishness, like championships doesn't matter when we start talking about GOAT conversations. And I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically talking about MVP would matter more than championships because championships is a team accomplishment, and MVP is more of an individual accomplishment. And that's what dudes get it twisted because I've been seeing lately people try to move championships out of the measurement for GOAT. Right? So they even start saying stupidness like, well, then Bill Russell the GOAT. Right? When you measuring GOAT, and this in my opinion, when you measuring GOAT, you measure talent plus dominance. Right? because the most talented player, which you was going into, the most talented player is not always the most dominant, right? And like Shaq, the most dominant player ain't always the most talented, right? So you weigh in those two things determine when you speak in GOAT, right? When you in the GOAT debate, the thing is, it's only one way, or the main way, to measure dominance. It's not stats. Right? Numbers lie. Duke could average 30 and be losing about 30 every night. The average 40 and be losing about 40 every night. Right? So it's not stats that determine dominance. There's only one legit way to determine dominance, and that's championships. Why championships determine dominance is because what you were just speaking on is that means you did the necessary things to win. And that's what these eras lately have tried to escape. They try to stack their teams up so they don't have to do necessary things to win. MJ said, I can't get past the Pistons. I got to go in the weight room. Necessary thing to win. You know what I'm saying? When Phil Jackson came, said, you want to average 30, be my guest. But if you don't get these players involved, the rest of the team involved, you ain't going to win. He started averaging more assists. That's a necessary thing to win. Right? So in order to win and have a dominance over the game is doing the necessary thing to win. Stats ain't always the necessary thing to win. We could look at a game and somebody had 15 points and was more dominant. Tyrese Halliburton is an example of that. Everybody talk about the triple-double game, but he had games where he had an impact on the game, and he didn't have no triple-double, and I don't think he even had a 30-piece. But he impacted the wins of the game, right? He impacted the game to get a W, and he dominated the game to get a W. So when we talking GOAT, you always got to put talent plus dominance. And in order to measure dominance, you got to look at championships. So I agree with you. When we look at talent, and then I look at how Jordan dominated an era, because when you compare these different eras, I always try to look at what you did in your era and how well you dominated your era, right? Jordan dominated an era. Nobody got championships in Jordan era. It was only two. He dominated an era, right? Just like we could look at Magic and Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas got a little in that, dominated an era. Right? You look at Bill Russell, he dominated an era. Right? Not Will. Bill Russell dominated that era. He went off with 11 rings, right? So I had MJ because when I look at all those guys of dominating era and I look at talent, skill sets, plus dominant, nobody have succeeded Jordan yet. Just period. Nobody has succeeded. After that, I would probably go into a Bill Russell. I would go into a Kobe. And I gave this some thought, and people probably gonna look at me as crazy. LeBron don't make my top 5. Steph Curry comes before LeBron. Curry has dominated an era more than LeBron did. And he dominated the era LeBron was supposed to dominate it. Because once Kobe retired, right, you have Golden State.
Elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm elaborate now, right? When you get Kobe retirement, right? So you have these runs with LeBron with Miami, and then you have the runs with Cleveland, right? LeBron teams was way more stacked than, besides the Golden State era with KD, LeBron teams was way more stacked than Curry ever had. That's number one. First thing I go into before I even get into Curry is what nobody want to speak on, the Miami era underachieved. People forget not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, but I think they went all the way up to 8 chips. They only got 2. They lost to an older Spurs team that was less talented. So they went 2 out of 4 with a team of 3 superstars, USA superstars that you like to call them, and they prime. And they went 2 out of 4. So you stack your team and you only got 2 rings in that. You come to Cleveland, right? You only get one ring out of that, right? And that team was pretty stacked. People try to act like they wasn't talented. I was pretty stacked. And who you ran up against? You ran up against Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
You ran up against
The
Stephen
yellow
Curry.
assassin.
You know what I'm saying? You ran up against Stephen Curry, and he ain't just get the ring with KD. He got one on you without KD. Right? So then you leave Cleveland and you get one with the Lakers, which I give totally credit for to get his 4 rings. But when you look at it, in my opinion, if you have to say who dominated the era, who stopped dudes from getting rings, it was Stephen Curry. It was Stephen Curry. Like, LeBron went to the finals and so forth on the East Coast, and he dominated the East Coast. But when he got there, he only put one out over him. He only put one ring. How many times did they match up? How many times did they match up? Because KD, with KD, they got 2.
Yeah, they probably matched up what? 4? Yeah, they probably matched up what, 4 times, I believe?
Yeah.
I think 4.
Oh, because they got 2 with KD. He got one without KD, and then he got one over Curry in them. When they came back from the 3-1. When they came back from the 3-1. So you went 1-3 against Curry, and we're gonna put him over Curry as, again, when we're looking at talent and then we're looking at dominance. There's no way when I look at their careers, they got the same amount of rings. With LeBron got 4. I think Curry got 4 as well. You met him 4 times in the final, and nobody else could meet another dude in his prime 4 times in the final, go 1-3, and we have put him over that dude. Nobody else.
Yeah.
So there's no way we skip over Curry because he's not the traditional 6'5", 6'6" guy running around. Do we step over him and put LeBron over Curry? There's no way. There's no way. When I look at my top 5, I go MJ, I go Bill Russell for dominance of his. You can't know 11 rings. I go Kobe at 3, right? I go let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, I go Kobe at 3. I'm going Kareem at 4, right? And then I'm going Curry at 5. And then you can put LeBron. Then we can start talking LeBron. You cannot be GOAT and you ain't dominate your era.
Yeah.
You can't be GOAT and you ain't dominate your era. I'm putting, like, is another dude, Jordan dominated his era. Bill Russell had Wilt Chamberlain. He dominated his era. Kareem dominated his era. That's 6 rings with Magic.
Yeah.
Kobe ran with 5. I can't put nobody, I don't think of nobody over Kobe in that era. You had T-Mac. Unfortunately, with his injuries, we didn't get to see that. You had AI, you had Grant Hill, you had all these amazing talents. None of them, I could say they dominated Kobe as far as dominance. You get what I'm saying? In their era. So that's when we start talking GOAT. So Kobe got to be up there in the Mount Rushmore. And when I look at LeBron, it's somebody in his era that I look and say dominated him. Now, they don't play the same position, so they don't match up. But when you're talking about as far as dominating the game, there's no way he goes over Curry. But people just going to look at talent. People going to look at talent. It shouldn't have been that way, but to me, he didn't dominate his era the way that they try to paint the picture. And you know how I feel about LeBron. I feel like he was one of the greatest talents we ever seen, along with Kevin Durant. I feel LeBron is Magic Johnson 2.0. I feel KD is Larry Bird 2.0. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't dominate their era. And it's funny when I say that also, not to kind of go on a tantrum with this, but when I say that, right, with LeBron got 4 rings, with Magic got 5.
Yep.
With Bird got 3. With KD got 2. So, 2. So when we talking about dominance, they both fell short of what those 2 guys did. They both fell short. And to me, when you look at talent, they are them 2.0. This is Magic and Larry Bird 2.0. And when you look at dominance, because this era don't understand dominance, they both fell short, but they was more talented.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think a lot of people give Bird his flowers the way they should. I mean, the talent that Bird had, I mean, I think people need to pop in those cassette tapes if they got VCRs laying around, and pop in those DVDs and whatever, and see exactly what he was doing. He was a well-rounded player. Like, people talk about his shooting ability because he was a 90, 50, 40 type of dude. You get what I'm saying? So they talk about his shooting ability, but they don't talk about his playmaking, his ball handling, his rebound. Like, they don't talk about other things that
Bird was a killer, man. Bird was a killer.
But again, a lot of those things help teams win games, right? And I'll say this pertaining to the LeBron GOAT era. And this is going to sound crazy to people, but stay with me. LeBron, to me, could have surpassed Mike.
I agree.
If he had his pride. See, Mike.
Repeat that. You said if he did what?
Had checked his pride. If he had checked his pride, he would have passed Mike. And this is what I mean by that. Mike played a certain brand of basketball to Phil Jackson King. Phil told him, you want to win, like you said, you want to do X, Y, and Z. All that ISO ball running around, just jacking up shots. Even though your numbers, again, that's why numbers lie. Even though your numbers look amazing, you're not going to win doing this. So he had to check his pride and get his teammates involved and play a brand of ball that empowered his teammates, not just him. Because you're a superstar. You could get yours whenever. So it's more important that you empower your teammates to make them players on the court that the other team got to respect. But LeBron played one style of basketball his entire career. And to me, it was a selfish form of basketball. People would look at his assists and go, what? How dare you? Selfish and LeBron? You got to be insane. No, I'm saying it because based on some of those teams he was on, minus the Cleveland that he first got to the championship, once he started stacking his teams, it was players that was right next to him that had ability to do a lot more, but LeBron was stepping on their toes by trying to be this all-around player and just play his brand of ball. To me, I didn't understand that. Why play a brand of ball like that and then go get all that talent? Everybody had to take a step back, whether it was Chris Bosh, whether it was Dwayne Wade. Everybody had to take a step back and allow LeBron to play his brand of basketball, and then they went to go try to plug the holes of the ship to make sure it was still a championship contending team. He never took a step back for his teammates to say, I know what I could do, but what do they do well? And how do I complement that? Right? Even when he went to LA in the beginning, it was a upcoming point guard, Lonzo Ball. Do LeBron need to be bringing the ball up every play with a Lonzo Ball? Of course not. He could have easily slid more into a scoring playmaker, that type of thing, which would have helped the team, which would have helped Lonzo grow because he was a true point guard. He's one of the few point guards that I've seen drafted in the last 10 years. Of course, he didn't live up to what we thought he would be, but he's one of the point guards in the last few years, to me, that had that it factor like Magic, that can literally dominate a game without really scoring because his IQ and his skill set was that high on how to play the position.
Remember who went and got him? Magic. Remember who went and got him? So it's funny you said that. Magic went and got him. And I agree 100% with you. And I don't even want to go too far into the comparison of Mike and MJ. But that's one thing that we have spoke about in the past is allowing, like people say Mike and Pippen. What people don't understand is Mike allowed Pippen to grow,
Exactly.
right? He allowed Pippen to develop and become Pippen, right? Mike could have easily been like, yo, this is my team, and whatever you trying to do, it ain't no room for that. Mike was already Mike at that point. You know what I'm saying? So he was already the golden child. And when we look at LeBron's career, LeBron, when he did get with young talent, he never allowed those young talent to thrive and grow. If anything, I would think he stunted their growth, and I don't think he did it intentionally. But what you hinted to, the selfishness of I'm gonna play my brand of ball, and the rest of y'all dudes figure it out. Rest of y'all dudes figured it out. Like for example, you got a young, like the point you were just making, you bring in a young Lonzo Ball. I mean, could see the floor. He passed, assists. I mean, a great comparison to J. Kidd, Magic Johnson, one of those type of dudes. And here's LeBron playing point guard with Lonzo Ball standing in the corner. His career never covered from that. His career never covered from that. I mean, the dude been kind of slightly standing on the corner ever since.
Yeah.
Plus the injuries kind of hurt him, but his career never covered from that. When you look at Lonzo Ball in his prime, I mean, the way he saw the floor, the way he passed the ball, it was a talent to see. It's Rondo-ish, it was J. Kidd-ish. I mean, and then at his height, 6'5", 6'6", doing it. Right? And LeBron didn't harness that and say, I'm gonna harness this young talent and use it to make it benefit the team. That's why his behind had to go and get traded. Because it wasn't going to fit with LeBron, because LeBron came in doing what he do.
Yeah.
So and I tell
people this, and look, I tell people this all the time, and you're 100% right. With a dude with that type of ability, a young talent, to turn him into a corner jump shooter is criminal. It's criminal. It's criminal. So I really question some of these guys' IQ. Because everyone embraces and acknowledges LeBron's IQ, how high it is, this, that, and the third. But if I'm trying to win, and again, that's why I say you got to take your pride and put it to the side. And I'm unselfish. I'm looking at that skill set and saying, oh, I could use that. Because nobody want to hear at the end of the game how tired you are. It's saying, oh, I need help, but you're not allowing people to bring their skill set to the table. And that's a prime example with Lonzo Ball. When you got a Lonzo Ball who, as a young player, understood how to kick the ball up and get a pace and really see the court from a special perspective, why do you got the ball in your hand? Why are you bringing the ball up? Like, you are 6'9". You can fill so many other positions that the team need and still be successful and get stats without basically eliminating this young dude flame. And when I look at some of the young talent that he played with, nobody, and I mean nobody, actually reached their potential under LeBron. None of them reached their potential under LeBron, and is what we was discussing. Is because LeBron said, I'm going to play LeBron way. I don't care who's on my team. I'm a triple-double. I'm a walking triple-double. So I need the rock in my hand. I need to assess mismatches. I need to pick those things apart. And everybody else is about to spot up or set picks or whatever the case may be. And if you are a player like a guard that need the ball to shine, start working on your corner three. Because you got this team.
And it's so funny you said that with harnessing Lonzo Ball's skill set, because you know what just came to my mind? The last championship he won, who played a big part of that championship? Rondo. The last championship he won, Rondo played a big part in that championship. And those are the skill sets of just a younger version of a younger version Lonzo Ball, right? An older version Lonzo Ball, should I say. Rondo is that, right? He's like an older version of that with Lonzo coming in the league. So for you to not use those skill sets and harness it, it says a lot because obviously you needed it because then years down the road you go and get Rondo, which is coming in with that same skill set. Rondo ain't standing at no corner trying to shoot 3-pointers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He want the rock in his hand. He's gonna control the offense. He's gonna make sure you get in the ball and scoring positions. He's gonna dime you out a few times on a few cuts. He's gonna pretty much take control of the game and take that off of your shoulders. So for you to not allow the young kid to contribute some of that, I think is says a lot. And that's been LeBron's career in a nutshell. And I think it may sound crazy. When you look at dominance, I have to say he underachieved according to his talents. And it's not just him. So I don't want people to think I'm just harping on LeBron because I feel the same way about Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel even more. I feel even worse about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant have underachieved according to his talents. Like these are two talents we haven't seen. You know what I'm saying? So for them to not have the dominance that they should have had on this era, and they both had great careers, but it's just when you compare talent towards dominance and being able to propel a team to championships that they should have propelled their teams to, they both had super talented teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to me with the talented teams LeBron have that you have one less ring. Then I mean his career is not over, but so far you have one less ring than Magic, and there's no way KD only have 2 rings with the super talented teams he had.
I agree.
The only things to say is that these dudes did not understand how to dominate a game, and I mean that could lead to a whole nother conversation. But yeah, for people to sit there and try to act like championships don't play a factor, and when we talking about GOATs, it's crazy. How else do you measure dominance? There's only one way to measure it.
And let me say this, Rod, and this is the problem when you start looking at stats pertaining to the GOAT conversation or the hierarchy of the NBA, when you ranking people, there's the problem when you look at stats because stats lie in regards to the numbers because all championships aren't created equal, right?
Word.
What you have to do in order to get that championship means a lot. And when you start stacking the deck, like I said, when you don't have to plug the holes of the boat to win, and that's not based on you, then it diminishes it to a degree. And these guys knew what they was doing. Again, I understand trying to empower the players. I'm all for the players having power to go wherever they please. But again, teaming up with your era and getting 3 dudes that's USA all-stars or USA talent, not even just all-stars. You literally put in all NBA dudes together and still complaining about what you need to win is crazy. To me, that stuff is crazy. It's crazy.
And you don't leave, like I said, that Miami team, I don't care what nobody say, they underachieve. You do not leave with 2 rings when you stack 2 other superstars on your team in an era that did not exist. And don't bring up no Boston. Boston was out of their prime. They had, a good 2-year window? You get what I'm saying? To chase whatever they was chasing. Those dudes was out of their prime. Ray Allen was a shell of himself. People forget Ray Allen wasn't just a shooter. At that point, Ray Allen was just a shooter. KG was not the KG on Minnesota. At that point, KG was just a pick and pop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Paul Pierce probably was the same thing because he had an old man game. So he was 40 since he was 20. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Paul was giving that workout like a dude at the YMCA. You get what I'm saying?
Paul Pierce always played like an old man. So his game there age. Well, Pierce could probably still get on the court and give these dudes work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, with no hand checking and all that. Man, please, man. That dude was a problem, man.
Well, Pierce's game didn't change one bit. Don't matter. But yeah, you don't stack a team like that and then you go 2 out of 4 against the old Spurs at that. This is an older Tim Duncan. as people try to act like it's a big three, you can't tell me Parker, Ginobili, and Tim Duncan as talented as D Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James.
Yeah. There's no comparison.
You don't do it.
But again, they was the better team because they played the right way.
LeBron they played the right brand of basketball.
LeBron played his way. And I'll end with this pertaining to this topic. LeBron, no different. I'm not sure if you heard James Harden a while back. Dudes was talking about systems. That man said he is the system. Right? So, which is insane, right? But the problem is he just piggybacking off of LeBron. LeBron has always been the system. He has never fit in to any type of offensive structure and bring his talents to that offensive structure. They offense have been LeBron. How LeBron played and then everybody feed off of that. And to me, that diminished some of his chances and ability to be the true GOAT, not the media GOAT, but the true GOAT. Because I think if he had took those skills and put it into an offensive structure like the triangle, we'll be having a different conversation right now.
I agree 1000%, man. Yeah, I agree with that. But we could leave it right there. We could wrap it up. Appreciate y'all guys are tuning in again for episode 2, Numbers Lie podcast. All right, we out on that note. Mike, it was good sharpening it up with you until we speak again. And that's pretty much it, man. Appreciate y'all.
All right, Rob.
All right, man.